So I've been reading a lot more manga recently, and I discovered a manga that I actually had the first 2 volumes of as a kid, and read it, and that manga I have come to learn, despite how good it isn't actually talked about all that much. So I thought, hey, I can shine a light on this underground shonen manga that I recently rediscovered and read again. Now, first, I want to preface and say that this manga definitely has its problems, and it isn't the greatest manga of all time. It was still a really good read, and I definitely think you should read it if you're into something underground or unheard of, but just in case it doesn't do it for you, then if you liked the art and character designs of the new Dororo anime, then you would probably be happy to know that this manga was created by the lead character designer for that show, so there's that. But anyway, I should probably start with a review now. So the manga I'm going to be talking about is a manga titled Tegami Bachi Letter B, and it is basically about these people known as letter Bs who deliver mail to people, but they have to fight a lot of monsters on the routes that they take. So these people are very highly respected among the ordinary citizens, and the weapon that these bees fire is called a shinden, and it requires them to shoot a piece of their heart in order for it to work. Now of course it does recover over time as long as they don't use their shinden, but still, having the risk of dying in battle, not because of any monsters, but because you fired too much of your own heart, is kind of scary, especially since if you do that, you will actually turn into one of the monsters known as Gaichu, which just makes the bees that much more special and kind of badass. But our protagonist Lag can actually fire his shinden and see other people's hearts by just firing at any object they once owned, and that becomes a big part of the story, and I promise that it's a really solid read. But there is one gripe that I have with the story, and that's that they spent more time in a fight with this one Gaichu in the middle of the story than they did fighting the final boss. Like, the battle against the Gaichu known as Cavernat went on for like 4 whole volumes, and the final battle took just the last volume because the second to last volume was just a lot of exposition, but that really is my only big gripe with the series. Everything else about it is actually really cool. The characters in Tegami Bachi are all really well written. You really get to fall in love with the characters, even the side characters that don't play a big role in the overall story. You will still find their quirks to be absolutely amazing. All the characters have quirks to them that make them feel like real people instead of character. Like the weapons maker and his wife the baker, those two really have nothing to do with the overall plot of the story, but every time they're on the page, it's just a good time because their personalities are amazing, and they let us see that the people of this world are, for the most part, happy and fun individuals who are just trying to live their best lives. And I love that there's only one character that doesn't really change much throughout the series, and that's one of the main characters. I'm not going to go into any details because I don't want to spoil anything too big, since I want you guys to go ahead and read this manga for yourself, but after you've read it, I'm sure you'll know exactly who I'm talking about, and although I like her character, she just doesn't really grow or change all that much throughout the course of the series, which sucks because she's one of the main characters. The art and paneling in this manga is actually really good. Like, you can turn to any page in any volume of this manga and you'll get some amazing art. And the fight scenes that happen in this manga are all extremely well done. You can see the weight behind every attack without having to be animated, and the way the characters are drawn during a fight is extremely well done as well. We get to see a lot of expressions and things due to the amazing paneling that is done. The paneling in this manga is actually amazing, though, especially when it comes to characters or knowing when to go all out with a full page spread. But seriously, this manga's paneling is great and allows the story to flow extremely well, and overall, this manga looks absolutely phenomenal, and just from the art alone, I think you should check out this manga because it is seriously really good. The story of Tegami Bachi overall is pretty good. However, I do have a few gripes with it, and don't worry, there won't be any major spoilers in this section of the video, so you're completely safe to watch. But anyway, the story's pacing overall is just a little all over the place. A lot of the time, they just jump from one area to the next, from one character to the next, without giving us any kind of transition or warning, making the story overall feel all over the place. And at the start of this story, the pacing isn't all that bad. They gave us enough time with each character, there isn't that much jumping around, and the pacing flows really well, but from volume 11 onwards, the pacing feels all over the place, and it is pretty hard to follow. There are some times when it cuts from one action-packed scene to people just talking about something completely unrelated to the fight, and I know that happens all the time in stories, but with Tegami Bachi, it feels more like he's trying to cram as much information as he can into a single chapter to make sure the reader can understand everything, but it makes it even harder to follow at times. But I'm not trying to say the story is bad, far from it. The manga is actually really entertaining, and the story overall, besides its pacing, is actually really good. Tegami Bachi is a shonen manga that I've never heard anyone talk about, but it's actually extremely good. And although there are some issues with it, as there is with just about every story, I'd still say you should give it a read, because it is an entertaining manga at the very least. So if you haven't read it, you won't be disappointed at it at all. I promise you. If you want to see me cover more manga content on the channel, then please remember to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you aren't already. That would be a big help.